Hey there, it's Olivia-Savannah here from Olivia's Catastrophe, and the day that you are seeing this video, it is my birthday. This year, my birthday, I am turning 26. I'm very happy about that. Happy birthday to me. And every year for my birthday I do a random video, which is something that is entirely whatever I am in the mood to film. It's something that I probably think doesn't fit in with the rest of my channel, but it's about something I really enjoy talking about. And this year for my birthday, what I would like to do is talk about some films and things that I've watched in the past year. In fact, I'm going to give you a top 7 things that I watched in 2024. I am not a big watcher. I don't watch a lot of TV, but I do enjoy watching films and kind of discussing and talking about film. Let's get down to number 7 on my list. Seventh film that I really liked last year, which is a surprise to me as well, is Ironclaw. I did not want to see Ironclaw in the cinema. I had no intention of seeing it. It just was something that I was like, oh, look at this film, whatever. However, when I went to the cinema with a friend, she picked the film and she picked Ironclaw because she'd heard a lot about it. And I was actually stunned. I really liked this film. It's based on a true story, and it's about this family where they were doing wrestling and they broke a lot of records in terms of a family in wrestling. And they're a very big family of brothers, all brothers, and their story is quite tragic and sad, what happened to the family, and it really struck me so emotionally. I'm someone who is I'm 1 in 4 in a line of sisters, and so big family dynamic films and books always get to me emotionally. I always really enjoy them because I feel like I can see representations of what my big family is like. I call us a big family. I know to some people that's not a big family and to some people it is, but yeah, it reflects my family. So I really appreciated the depictions of the competition that you feel with your brothers, especially the competition that they have because of the fact that they're all doing the same thing, which is wrestling, but also that like wanting to please your parents, especially because the father is quite toxic in the way that he trains them and pits them against each other, and you can see how that feeds into their brotherly dynamic, yet at the same time they all still really love each other and support each other and want the best for each other and really care about each other in a way that close siblings do. So seeing that duality really worked for me. I really like Lily James as an actress. She's in this. I think Zac Efron did a fantastic job as well. They actually all did. They all did a really good job of this acting. It broke my heart, like steadily and gradually this film broke my heart, and the ending just really obliterated me. And so I just felt a lot of emotions while watching this film, and I just didn't expect that because I don't actually like wrestling. I don't typically gear towards sad films. I love reading sad books, but my film watching taste is quite opposite to my reading taste, other than like horror films. But like, I don't really like watching rom-coms, for example, but I'm happy to read a romance book. So it was a big surprise for me that I liked Ironclaw this much. Number 6 is the film Sense and Sensibility. I've actually never seen it before until last year, even though Sense and Sensibility is my favourite Jane Austen classic. I'm really bad at watching the classic adaptations of things that I really enjoy reading for some reason. And so I had a film night with my sister April, who's already seen Sense and Sensibility before, and I really just loved it. It was a fantastic adaptation of that book. It was true to the book. The dialogue is straight out of the book. The actors did such a good job of portraying them. I think, what's her name? Emma Thompson smashed it as Eleanor, and also Marianne was played spectacularly well. They were both, those two characters who are my favourite, were both shown to be exactly who they are in the books and brought to life in a way that just struck really true. I was not actually the biggest fan of Alan Rickman in this role. I don't think he was the right person for this role, but it wasn't bad either because it did a good job of showing how undesirable he was for Marianne, especially in the beginning. And then Edward Ferrars was played so well by that actor. Oh my gosh, I'm really bad at actors' names. He was played so well by him, and he infuriated me the way that he does in the book, but also just really smashed it. So actually all of them just did such a good job, and it captured some of the humor in the book, it captured the romantic elements, but also the major drama of this story as it unfolds. I really liked it. I thought it was a fantastic classic adaptation. At number 5, I put this as the best horror film that I saw last year. I love horror. I watched a lot of horror last year, but Saw was the best one. Now, Saw is not a new film. It's a horror classic, and it's a horror classic for a reason. I just didn't expect to love it as much as I did. I knew the premise, which is where you are put in these very like impossible situations where you have to make really horrific choices in order to try and save yourself from the scenario. And there's a killer who is putting these people in these scenarios, these people who have done something wrong in his eyes and deserve it. And so there are also detectives who are trying to figure out who this killer is and tracking what's happening, and we're following one particular case of this game. And what a concept. It was such a good concept, and that's what I liked. It didn't have to be a high budget film for it to pull off the very clever concept that it is. And the ending of this film surprised me so much. I didn't expect it, and so I was like, wow, that's genius, that's really, really smart. And I just love an intelligent horror film, and it was a psychological horror in the fact that the choices the characters had to make were so painful. I was like, what would I do in that situation? What would I do if I were in those people's shoes? Like, how would I react to everything as they unfold? The actors in this did a really good job of playing their roles. There were times when I was screaming at the characters like, do this, don't do this. I was so interacted and involved while watching this film, and I was watching it on my own. And I don't typically enjoy watching things on my own because I like to discuss, I like to chat, but I was discussing and chatting with the TV while I was watching it, so I had a great time. And I think it's a really good film. I haven't seen any of the sequels. I'm not sure if the sequels are worth watching because I've heard that the effect of the first one is just that good that it's really hard to replicate and repeat, but had a banging time. The fourth one on my list is actually a TV series combined with a film, and this is the best TV series that I watched in 2024, and it's an anime. I watched Jujutsu Kaisen season 1, and also then I watched the film Jujutsu Kaisen episode 0, which you should watch after you've watched season 1 but before you start season 2. I have not touched season 2 in 2024. I'm a slow watcher with series. The fact that I watched all of season 1 by myself as well, again, I mostly watch TV with somebody else, is very, very impressive. And I loved it so much, and then I watched episode 0 and I also loved it so much, even though we're following different characters. This one is a bit of a like found family. These characters fight demons and you're following Yuji and Itadori, and Yuji Itadori is someone who ends up eating an artifact which makes him possessed by one of the most evil demons possible, and the artifact that he eats is a finger, and he needs to kind of collect all the rest of the fingers, and then he can be executed and kill this demon at the same time. And so it's a bit self-sacrificial to do that, but as well as him collecting all of these fingers, there are demons who want this demon to become one and collected in Yuji's body, but then use that demon rather than the demon then being executed by executing Yuji. At the same time, he's going to the school to learn how to use his powers, and there is where the found family element comes in, and a lot of it is actually more about what happens at that school so far and him learning to use his powers rather than the overarching storyline, which is also happening about the demonic possession and eating all the artifacts. And it's just so good. I love a found family, and I love this found family so much. At the beginning I was a bit unsure about some of the characters that we meet, but they built on me, they grew on me, they've all got their own backstories and personalities and difficulties and reluctance to be friends, but they cannot help but form the found family bonds that they are forming. I love the creativity of the juju that they do and what their skills are and how each of them use them uniquely. I think at some points it feels like you're just being introduced to like, this is their juju, this is their juju, this is their juju, but at the same time it's all unique. Like, I know there's lots of books where you have powers, and some of these powers often repeat themselves again and again, especially in superhero films, but these felt unique and different, and so I was having fun learning about them. The action scenes are so good. In terms of it being an anime, Mappa as a studio are absolutely killing it lately, and some of the action sequences were some of the best animation I've ever seen on screen before. I was just in awe while I was looking at my screen, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is gorgeous in terms of the action scenes and how they flow, and so smooth. Absolutely love it. Love the concept. Don't want any of the characters to die because I will utterly break if that happens in season 2. Please, no spoilers. And I just loved every single thing about it. I was just giggling, having fun. I laughed so much. There's a lot of comedy to this as well, and I found it very entertaining. Really, a really great show, and I can't wait to watch season 2 this year. The third best film that I watched is The Green Mile, which is a film that's been out for ages, but it was the first time that I ever saw it. And this is actually a really emotional and long film. I don't tend to like long films because I don't really like sitting still for that long, but The Green Mile, I watched it in 2 bits with Simi and it was really, really good. It's a classic for a reason. It's about the Green Mile, which is the cells where people who are on the death penalty are kept until it's their time to be executed. And it's following the officers who work on that Green Mile cell block, and they receive a huge black guy who's quite simple-minded and really lovely but is on death penalty. And it was such an emotional film. You cannot help but really like the characters that you're following. You start to really like the officers who are working together. They kind of have their own camaraderie as well. They kind of feel like a found family because they work together every day, and you see how they interact and like support each other, and I really like that. But also you start to feel for these people who are on the death penalty because you see them in their everyday process, and you see that some of them are really repentant, some of them really want to change their ways, but due to the death penalty they're never going to be able to get that chance. And some of it is like, who is committing the horror here? Is it the people who have committed these atrocious crimes, or is it the fact that we are murdering them for committing these atrocious crimes? And it really puts in perspective the death penalty. Many people who are given the death penalty have committed their crimes, and there are also a lot of people who have not. And so it kind of shows both of those things, and it also shows what it costs the people who have to actually do the murdering for the death penalty, emotionally, what it costs them, but also what it costs all of us. Like, do we want to be a society where the death penalty exists? I live in a country where it doesn't exist. I know there are countries where it still does exist. I'm opposed to the death penalty personally, and so watching this just really cemented me in like, the death penalty is wrong. And I urge anyone who's a big fan of the death penalty, I don't know anybody like that, but if there are people out there like that, you should watch this film and see if you still feel the same way at the end of it. Tom Hanks, phenomenal in this role, absolutely killed it. It was such an emotional watch. The 2 best films that I watched this year kind of are on par with each other and tied with each other. I'm going to talk about RRR first. This is a Tollywood film. It's in Telugu. You can watch it on Netflix with subtitles. One of the best films I watched this year. Thank you so much to my best friend for introducing it to me. It is following these 2 men set during occupied India, when Britain was like occupying India. One of them is someone whose member of his tribe was like taken by the British military, and so he's on a quest to rescue that girl and get her back to the tribe where she belongs. And the other police officer, who is Indian but working for the British military, is set the task of finding the man who's trying to rescue the girl. So they're actually enemies, but of course they're both working in disguise to be able to find and do what they want to do. And in the process of being in disguise, they actually meet each other and become friends, and they don't know that the other person is kind of opposing to what they want, and that they're actually looking for each other on the undercover level, but on the top level they're actually friends. So you're getting a huge frenemy dynamic, and I really love this because it's got all of the Tollywood drama that you can expect, and songs and dance sequences that are done so very well, and beautiful music and just really fun dance scenes, and some hilarious humor in it as well. But it's also got a very emotional undercurrent of serious commentary on what it's like for a country to be occupied, what this means, the fights and the civil unrest as people try to fight for their own independence and are being oppressed. But also you've got this beautiful depiction of male friendship at the center of this story that was so lovely and so heartwarming to see, and at the same time you know it's a ticking time bomb because you know that they're actually enemies, and it's about the choices that they make as that time bomb kind of like times out, you know, what choices they're going to make after that, after they discover everything that they need to discover. The action scenes are really good, completely unrealistic as you can expect in a Tollywood film, but are just so good and so enjoyable to watch. I actually watched this film twice last year, which is really big deal for me because I'm not someone who typically enjoys watching long films, and I watched this 3.5 hour or something film twice in a year because I really loved it. I consider myself a complete big fan of this, one of the best films that I've watched. And then the other best film that I watched last year was Poor Things. I absolutely loved this film. I've been a big fan of Emma Stone as an actress for a very long time. I've watched many of her films, many in terms of me and my watching speed, and I was like, if Emma Stone's in it, I will watch it. And so I watched Poor Things. What I didn't know when going in was that it was going to be such a big riff off of Frankenstein, which is one of my favourite classics. So seeing a retelling of Frankenstein really intrigued me. I'm not a big film watcher of films with this much like nudity and sex on screen, so be prepared for that, but actually it works for the story. And this one is about this Frankenstein-esque girl who has her brain, so she is in the body of an adult but she is the brain of like a young child, and it's about the like scientist who raises her kind of and like teaches her about the world, but also her journey of actualization and building her own personality when she decides to move out and explore the world on her own. And she goes through a lot of discovery, a lot of sexual discovery, but also a lot of like female empowerment discovery and independence discovery as well. And this film was quite long. Again, it's really strange, these long films are in my top films, but also while it's quite long, it really tackles like female empowerment and the female body and female pleasure. It also really tackles like what it means to be in a romantic relationship, whether that's fulfilling for her or not, and then a lot about science and the questions of, is it ethical to do what this scientist man has done, and how does that impact their relationships. So I just really enjoyed watching her go about her journey. I loved how it was filmed. The cinematography was really, really nice. It managed to kind of make it look a bit older in its portrayal, but also very aesthetic. It felt very unique. I don't know how to word it. It was like black and white in some elements, elevating into color at certain points. It felt very surreal. It felt very old school, but it also just felt very in your face, like, wow, this is happening right now, you're watching it. It's very involved, and so I really like that. I think Emma did a great job, as I said, playing her role, and I just liked a lot of the questions it raised about beauty, about creation, and about love and ownership, like ownership of you. If you are raised and created by someone, how much of you do they deserve? How much of you do they own? And I do think this film went on a little bit too long. I will say there's some parts of it that I would have cut because it was quite a long film, but also I did enjoy the final ending, the final moments, and I just really remember it vividly as a very, very good watch. I haven't rewatched it since, but it is one that I know that I would rewatch. Very good film, very phenomenal, very conceptual. And there you have it. Those are the 7 best things that I watched in 2024. I've already watched some films in 2025. I also watched some other really good stuff in 2024. Let me know in the comment section down below what was one of the best films and TV series that you watched in 2024. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. It's usually book content or travel content or tea content around here, but if you'd like to see more, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video. And you know what they say, onwards and upwards. Excelsior.